Boom. Liam, how you doing, mate?
I'm really good. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I'm the lucky one here. So, for our friends at home, Liam's got a channel. I'm just going to show you it on Instagram. He started off this channel called Sovereign Spirit 369, as you can see, and Liam very kindly put out an Instagram story the other day, something of the kind of like, check out Chris Thrall. He's helped me on my journey, and
Yeah.
um, and I thought, I'm figuring there's people out there trying to grasp all this stuff, and it's really hard, Liam, for people to break out of the fourth dimension awake narrative. You know, the Donald Trump, the flat Earth, the all these narratives, and access fifth dimension consciousness, which in essence is, you know, the point in life where not only have you tuned into spirit, but you know there's there's no duality. There's only one, the all, the everything, of which we are, a representation of the divine, or a microcosm, or a holographic representation. Da, 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 da. This is why I'm always saying it's so stupid to go to war. You're literally going to war with yourself in another manifestation. It's utterly cretinously stupid. And of course, you see this division massively in politics. It's symbolized by the blue and the red, which is literally they're polarizing your left brain and your right brain so that you never hemisync and you never reach that all important, Solomon's temple, soul being sun, E being and, mun being moon, sun and moon, electromagnetism. Same with Israel. Is being Isis, moon god, Ra being the sun god. Again, it's just talking about when people access this way of life that we're here to discuss. Your endocrine glands start working as they should, and you enter the land of milk and honey, i.e., serotonin and DMT. And so, what I thought we could do is for those people out there going, Chris, I can't get it. I can't stop hating on people. I can't, it is, we can help them in the process, Liam, by just chatting about your journey and mine. And the
Yeah.
biggest thing I can say to start off, friends, it's not, we're so used to doing something and getting a gain at the end of it. This is not that. This is not doing stuff. This is shedding off the layers of programming that you've had all the years and realizing that the reward comes with not doing stuff. And it's not, I probably said enough, Liam, so forgive me. But yeah, how did you get to hear of me?
That's a good question. Um, so I think what it was is, I now live in America. I fell in love with my beautiful wife and we moved over. And we stayed with her parents for a little bit because she fell pregnant and they wanted to offer support. So we stayed with them a little bit. And I think what it was is, and this all happened in 2020, and we know what that was, a crazy year. So that just got me thinking a little bit, kind of changed my perception about health and the world and all that stuff. And I just discovered your YouTube channel, just, I want to say randomly, but I don't think anything's random anymore. And yeah, it just started from there, really. That's how I kind of discovered you, just
Yes.
on YouTube.
Good. And you're a fellow veteran as well. I think this. I got a bit shirty on LinkedIn earlier.
Mm,
Not really shirty. I'm not that kind of, But what I like to do is just drop the occasional comment in that people can't argue with. And what it was another one of these charities that set up around PTSD, and they all refer to it as something you get in war. Whereas those of us that serve no, we was messed up before we joined up. We came from, a lot of us came from challenging backgrounds, wanted to prove ourselves in life, so we joined the forces. Would have been prepared to do anything that we were told to do, and that's obviously a very dangerous thing. And then what happens is combat can act as the catalyst that just shows you've got no bloody coping mechanisms, that you can't compartmentalize everything where it should be, and your life starts to spiral out of control. Meaning it's not the combat that's caused this, it's the unhealed childhood trauma. And so I dropped a little comment in saying, once again, everyone's opting not to see the elephant in the room. The Americans call it the thing behind the thing, so just literally what I just explained. And I said something like, this feeds very well into the military industrial complexes, recruitment pool of damaged youngsters living in their ego self. And what I'm getting to, Liam, is, do you think that encapsulates your story, and that's why at some point down the line you started to go on this journey into the light?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I joined the army probably for all the, I don't want to say the wrong reasons. I think everything happened for a reason. I think I joined for a reason, and I don't regret my experience. I had a pretty good experience in the forces. I really enjoyed it, but it just got to a certain point where I thought, I'm going down a bit of a destructive path here. And I didn't really know it at the time. I just thought that was the norm. Because like you were saying, in basic training, not just basic training, but in all kind of paths in the military, everyone was kind of from the same background, a similar background. And, I don't want to speak ill of my parents. I think they did the best job they could with the tools that they have. And, I'm really healing through that and trying to forgive them. And, everyone had a similar story to that. And I think basically it was just a way out for a lot of young men and women to just get away and just try and prove themselves. Or for me, for my personal experience, it was to say, I can do it, because none of them kind of believed that I could. So
did you, when I left the military, I sort of crashed out a bit. I got quite unwell, took loads of drugs, and in only in a quest to find myself, Liam. Well, I should put it into perspective. I was self-medicating undiagnosed trauma. Why was it undiagnosed? Well, nobody knew anything about childhood trauma then. No one knew that if a kid, gets kicked from pillar to post, and, that's a euphemism for an awful lot more worse stuff, that they're going to come out a bit damaged, and they're going to, things like alcohol and substances, it's going to be a source of, like a baby sucking on a teat. It's going to be a source of pacification and comfort, and that's where the danger comes, because you seek that mind altering substance, and before you know it, you've put that first, and everything else is coming second. So kind of wasn't sure where I was going with that, but did you have an adverse experience when you left?
Yes and no. I think it was a bit weird anyway, because I left in 2020. So when all of that madness happened, I was still I was still in, but I had about a few months left because I just came back from Belize. So I had a really fantastic time in Belize. I spent 10 months in Belize, came back to my unit, and yeah, we got told to go home. And I was like, what? Like, I'm in the army, we have to go home. We have to like I was like, wow, this must be serious. And I kind of when I was coming out, I seen that I was on this destructive path and I wanted to change. And, looking back, that was probably intuition or my higher self or whatnot. I didn't really know at the time. But yeah, I mean, you know what it's like. I was drinking Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and not just one or two, just to the point where I would just get out of my mind, just drink to the point of just getting unconscious, I suppose. So getting out, it was quite therapeutic because even though the world was seemed a bit weird at the time, I got myself a nice little rental house in the North Yorkshire Moors, a nice little old cottage essentially. And I was just out in nature, out in the countryside. I was getting paid to be at home. My wife came over, made it over just in time before that happened. And yeah, we were just going out on walks every day, and I was like, wow, this is nice. So I guess that was the start of my healing.
Good.
So, but I did all the destructive stuff before that.
Did you? I suppose I better ask. Did you have the medical procedure?
No, no,
Was
no. Fortunately, I look back and I'm like, wow, how did that even? How did we not? How did that happen? And basically, before they did the restriction on flights, it was all divine timing. We made it. We made it to America. We got expedited. We actually joined a lawsuit and we sued the U.S. government, and we got expedited, and because she was pregnant at the time. So for whatever reason, whether you want to call it divine intervention or just manifesting in a way, because I knew we would go to America. I just knew it, and it happened. So yeah, to answer your question, no, we didn't. Fortunately.
I was snowboarding in northern Italy when the bogus thing hit, and of course, which part of the world was like the big alarm center was northern Italy.
Mm,
And when we come back through the airport, the buddy I was snowboarding with, he come down with this awful like man flu. It were he couldn't stand up in the airport. He was just on the ground like this, and I thought, how the hell is he going to get? When they've got the temperature things and all that, and look,
yeah.
they're looking in your orifices. I thought, how's he going to get home? But it was absolutely, it was no problem. Yeah. So
Mm,
it's, you see, we forget. I certainly forget. It's not so long a time for you, but I mean, I joined up like nearly 40 years ago now. For 30 odd years ago at least. So I've been out an awful long time, but the violent mindset that you get conditioned into in the military, and I'm not just talking in conflict where, I mean, I'm not just. Let's just take away the fact that, like, when I was in the Northern Ireland conflict, I would have shot someone without thinking about it. I only ever had two chances, and they weren't really chances because, for reasons I won't go into. But now I look back and to think that I could have committed that on another human being. Okay, I know you can argue it's self-defense and da-da-da-da, but still, that lad's got a life story too. Do you know what I mean? Or that lass, or whoever it might be. And but the other thing, Liam, was when I came out of the military, if I had any disagreement with anyone, a bloke, I was just at fighting stations immediately.
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
or I'd just grab them and threaten them, and I thought that was completely normal. I thought that's what it is to be a man, is you've got to be this, hyper vigilant, ready to just turn on the violence just like that. And
Yeah.
it took a
You get
long time to realize that that's not right,
Yeah. Well, when you're in that environment, you get that kind of recognition. If you were to go back to your unit or to your troop the next day and said, "Oh, I had a scrap yesterday. This guy badmouthed me," you'd probably get a pat on the back and say, "Oh, go on, show him how it's done." So it's kind of like it's all ego, isn't it? They, yeah, everything's ego.
Yes. So you didn't have the old Scooby snack. That's good. And it sounds like you've had a much more mellow transition into divinity or spirituality, or I just call it biochemistry, because it's just getting your body to fire right, and it makes you happy when you suss it. You just enter a place you can't go back, and it's called paradise. But you sound like you've had a smoother transition, which is good.
Yeah, yes and no. I think it's had its hurdles, such with anything. For me, I got really focused into the conspiracies, seeing the world different. That I think that can be a trap for a lot of people on this journey. And I know you've spoken about it before. You said you actually, chemically or whatever, felt that awakening before you awakened. Like the other side of seeing the world different. You actually experienced what it felt like to be. I call it oneness or presence, true presence. And I think a lot of people is that kind of first one. And I got stuck a little bit, but I remember you making a video and you said, you bring up that upside down triangle, the frequency chart. I can't remember who it's by now, but it was by someone.
Yeah.
And I never really got that at the beginning. I was like, what's he bringing this chart up all the time? What's that about? I didn't really get it. And for me, I don't want to go into it too much, but we were in a pretty toxic environment and we had to get away from that, because there's no way you can heal if you're in a toxic environment. In my opinion, at least, that's just from my own experience. There's no way I could have done it. And self accountability as well. And, I don't want to say you helped wake me up, but you helped plant the seed. And it was down to my own self accountability to kind of see what you're on about. And that's when I started looking into meditation, reading, healthy eating, alkaline diets, sun gazing. The list goes on. I really like to do cold plunges lately. Yeah. Yeah. So
This is fascinating. Yeah, you're right about, see, I was enlightened before I was awake. So I had spirit, which came off the back of recovering from chronic addiction. I got so low one day. People have heard me tell this story before, but I was so low, cold, shivering, lonely, utterly skint, and I literally had an epiphanal moment, like when they say the angel coming to buy me. You think, what, an angel? What, someone with wing? Well, obviously it's allegory for when the information finally hits home. The angel being an angle of light, photon, information from source. And for me, I had that moment and I realised in it, hang on, Chris, you've been bloody playing a victim. You're not a victim. You do to life. You don't let life do to you. You create your future. And that moment, Liam, I just made some decisions. I thought, first off, I'm going to take action. You know, if you don't take out, if you stagnate, whoa, you're going to end up in such a shit place. Took action. That was cutting down a gear. Second thing is I said, I'll throw the curtains open every morning, no matter how I'm feeling, whether I'm going to come down, whatever. And I'll say, morning, sun. Thank you so much for this opportunity of life. And just those two things, I woke up after me next come down, because I was, anyway, I woke up and first of all, I was going to put my head back on the pillow. I thought, no, you made a promise. I got up, I threw the curtains open. I said, morning, sun. Thank you so much for this life. And in that moment, I got it. I got the fire. I got the, you know, in Star Wars, they call it the Force. You know, I got it in that moment because I'd stopped being victim and I'd started to be grateful. And that's all you got to, that's your starting point, you know. So I was like that for a few years. And then, of course, the events in New York and Washington happened. You know, that big event 20 years ago. And at first, most of us were just, you know, we just believed what we saw on the telly, didn't we? We didn't know any different. These people were supposed to look after you. And it wasn't until a uni lecturer, we're in uni, and this is 2003, probably by this time, 2005, he says, anyone seen that video of the Pentagon? He says, you go home. And so I went home and I got that curious mind. I was probably the only person in class that went home and wanted to get to the bottom of it. Put on the old internet. It's like, it was crap back in those days. On me, it was like me Pentium 386. And after like cranking the handle and getting it warmed up, I come across this video of them carrying what was clearly a missile out of the Pentagon. And I'm like, and there were a few like links on it. So I'm going down the rabbit hole, aren't I? I'll click this link and I'll come across a wonderful video made by a chap called Jason Burmas, or he's one of the directors. It was called Loose Change 9, won't say that number. And it's funny, he's a mate, he's been on the show now. It's kind of talk about like, you know, you meet you meet your idols. He's a lovely bloke, Jason. And in that video, they just exposed all this hypocrisy and policy that had been written, you know, prior to this, and the money that was traded on the stock market in the build up to this event. So clearly, people knew this was going to happen. The people that were of a certain ethnicity, should I say, that were pulled out of the Twin Towers, not every single one of them, but a significant, you know, people like Larry Silverstein, who just didn't turn up for work that day for the first time in, you know, his history of working there, because he had a dermatology and I'm like, fuck me, we've been lied to, haven't we? We've been lied to our whole life. And it took about 3 years from that point to really grasp it, Liam, you know, to accept it. And the reason that you couldn't go back into the Matrix was that Building 7. There's, you know, enough. They don't just go like that, you know.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get around it. There was no aircraft involved, nothing. It just went. And that was like, Chris, do your logic, yourself, and your humanity a favor. Don't you ever go back, because that needs explaining. And now, of course, you know, all these years down the line, was it 20 odd years now? It's done a lot of researching and a lot of reading. And so, sorry, Liam, I'm talking a lot, but it's you know, it's important for people to understand that enlightenment and being awake they're two different things.
Yeah.
But generally, waking up and being Mr. Angry and trying to wake up all your mates who think you're a nutcase, that generally comes before enlightenment, but that's not all. It doesn't have to be like that, because enlightenment is a different energy.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, unfortunately. And I think there's people out there on YouTube, like big YouTubers, I'm not going to name anyone, that are there for that reason, to play that Pied Piper role, to get people just to stuck in that kind of.
It's not just YouTubers, it's bloody presidents, mate, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's presidents, it's the leaders of huge tech companies that profess to put rockets, into space. They're all at it. They're all yeah. Sorry, I'll sound like I've got animosity to what I haven't. I just think you live your life. I'll live mine. Thank you very much. But if you can't look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day, don't make you much of a human being, does it?
Yeah. And I remember you made this video one time. It was, I can't remember which video it was, but you said, what I like about you, Chris, what you do, you always bring up that spiritual kind of path in a lot of your videos. And I remember one video you said, if you're aware of all of this, and you're not too sure about enlightenment and all that, what you're here for, you don't have to watch this, you don't have to put your awareness on this. And I didn't really get that at the time, but now I get it. And I'm not saying like, oh, don't watch your videos. That's not what I'm saying, but it's a good reminder for people to not get overindulged in all of this, whatever you want to call it. And it's good to have a balance. I find for me, in my experience, it's nice to have a balance between the two, because I don't want to get duped. I want to find out the truth. I'll make my own discernment to hear both sides. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so much going on in this equation. Where to start? It can be good to realise that the world isn't the way you were taught as a kid. That's called being awake. In fact, I showed a diagram while we're talking then. So folks, the matrix that I was living in when I was a soldier, when I believed that, politicians were honest and the news was there for my benefit, I was obviously in the matrix, wasn't I? You can see it says here, the matrix. I was completely programmed from birth, from school. And that day when my lecturer sent me home and said, watch that video about the Pentagon, my life had changed, didn't it? My energy had changed. I'd started to make that transfer from a left-brain programmed person into a right-brained, empathic, feeling, sensitive person. And that's your fourth dimension transition. Now that's great, but where it's at, it is the new consciousness, enlightenment. This is what every scripture talks about. This is what your Jesus was all about, your Buddha, your chap there from Arabia, is it the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him. This is what all of that scripture is about. This is why you need books like this. All right. If you want to understand the scripture, you've got to get the dictionary to understand it. Otherwise, all you're left with is all that bloody mumbo jumbo that they told you in church. It just literally makes no sense and sounds really weird. People getting pregnant and not having sex and walking on water and all this stuff. And the enlightened consciousness is when you recognize that there's no duality. Look, you can see it there, non-duality. There isn't a you and there isn't a me. We're all the same. We're all the same we're all made from the quantum field. In Egypt, they call it the netter, the net. You can see the net here in this picture. The net, the fabric of life. When you apply energy, vibration, and frequency to that net, boom, you get matter, you get life. And life evolves into Chris and Liam, and we deludedly think that, I'm an individual, and Liam's better looking than me, and and all this division.
That's not true.
Yeah, I know. I've been humble, mate. And all this like division starts. They've got you in the little box, whereas realizing no. Liam is just me in another body, as is everybody watching this, because we are all the all. There's no you and there's no me. There's just the all. And the Babylonians, the cult, pretty easy to see who these people are in society, folks. I can't, we're quite limited what we can say on this platform, but you either see who the wannabe controllers are or you don't. And they play this game. They play the division game. It's actually symbolised the duality with the chessboard, and they control all the they have their beast system. It's called their Baal system. And the beast system is to get everybody in the 666 instead of the 144. The 144 is not in gematria, is 9, isn't it? The 666 is 9. 6 add 6 add 6 is 18. Add the 1 and the 8 is 9. So you've got enlightenment is the 144,000 you read about in scripture, in Bible. And you've got the 666, which we know is the devil, the beast. And both are the same, because for everything above, you have something below. Now, these Babylonians, they work the beast system. They work the below. They keep you with these puppets, people like your Bono and your warmongers, and your computer geeky whatever. They use these people to put a message out to you, which keeps you in your lower beast self. Simple. How much time do people spend chasing porn, fast cars, holidays, houses, bigger job, when the secret is just to go, that is it. This is all you're going to get in life. If you want to be the unhappiest person on the planet, keep chasing happiness. And so, yes, sorry, I've gone on one a bit there, Liam, but I was just trying to explain the diagram, wasn't I? That you really, if you really want to, take this journey, you've got to stop thinking in terms of division. You've got to stop thinking that Donald Trump has come here to save you. It's not that he's whatever you think. He is playing his part in the beast system. He is never going to call out the controllers. He is never going to talk in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. It's because it's a beast system. You can't change a system by being in the system. Doesn't mean that he might not do some great stuff. But essentially, if you're not calling out the Babylonian death cult, which operates behind the facade of a certain little country in the Middle East, you ain't doing the people no favours, because what they believe in is what I was saying. They believe that the Temple of Solomon, which is sun and moon, the electromagnetics that you need to get right to fire your pineal gland to enter the land of the promised land of milk and honey. They believe that this is an actual temple built in an actual place, and that when they've achieved this, their new Messiah, who will be the 666 personified, will ascend to the earth, and they will have their new world order where the chosen people lord it over all the fucking sheep or whatever, you know. And so, yes, it's worth understanding this stuff, Liam. It's worth understanding this stuff, and I'm probably not really explaining it very well, am I?
No, I think you've got to make sense of it. I mean, you don't have to fully understand it, but I think it's good just understanding two different sides. I'd love to talk about self-love as well, because that's something that's really helped me on my journey. And ultimately, we're all self-accountable for our own self-love. And it's very easy to do. And in fact, like, all the effort is just the ego. It's effortless to love yourself. And yeah, you just got to have this perception shift. And when we talk about miracles, a miracle is really, it's just a shift in perception. That's truly a miracle. And to have an open mind. And, you know, self-love can look like reading books. So me and my wife read this book every day. It's called A Course in Miracles. And I don't know if you've read it before, Chris, but
Looks amazing, mate.
Yeah, so it's a lesson a day for a whole year. And apparently, so this book was channeled, and yeah, every day is a lesson. I think that yesterday's lesson was, because we haven't done it yet, it was I am under no laws but God's, and it's not a religious book. And that's another thing about self-love, I guess, is you know, I used to really struggle to say the word God, and I used to associate that with like, oh, religious and stuff, but just allow yourself some self-love and an open mind and just try to understand it. It can look like eating healthy, green smoothies. It could also look like even having a chocolate bar now and again, and don't beat yourself up for it. Don't shame yourself. Stop shaming yourself. Self-love for me has been massive. I think that's been, dare I say, one of the biggest things that's helped me. Because yes, I fall off the boat now and again, but for the most part, I don't want to say I'm enlightened, but I'm at peace. And I think another word for enlightenment is free from suffering.
Absolutely. Free from suffering and to a degree impervious to it. Although we obviously are having this human experience simultaneously as the spirit. This is the material realm, isn't it? And then there's the ether, the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
One thing I neglected to say, Liam, when I was having me lowest point there, was it. You know, and we're talking like this is a chronic nervous breakdown. My fractured mind can't take any more of this life that I've created for myself. You know, when you're injecting drugs like 12 times a day, that kind of has that effect on you. But the catalyst for me being grateful and taking action was I looked at that young version of me, that little toddler. I looked at the shit that he went through, and I forgave all the people involved in it, because they were just, you know, they was just acting out their trauma, right? And I thought, right, start looking after that kid, because that kid's you now. He's an adult, and you're the one that's giving him our time, Chris, you know, and bring him into the fold, start looking after him. And that, so it's a amazing point you bring up, Liam, and that's why I'm grateful for having you on the show.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I think, you know, because you made a video a while ago and you seemed a bit, this was like a long time ago. You seemed a bit disheartened. I think you were like, should I continue doing the podcast? Like, can you really wake people up? And I think you can plant seeds, but it's up to them
Yeah.
to, you know,
It's
experience that if they want to experience that.
it's hard work going up against the programming all the time. Obviously it is, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I've got friends, I love them. They're very good to me, you know. We're all agreed on the old medical thing that, you know, that was, you know, we all kind of got a bit of a grasp of, you know, those events in New York. And but then they'll come out and you can't break that wall. You can't break,
Yeah.
in theatre they call it the fourth wall. That's the audience. It's the same with this step into the new consciousness. You can't do it for people, and it won't happen for everyone. Although I believe it's there for everyone. I'm not sure about that, but I think, you know, it's not. You know what Jesus taught ain't exclusive, is it? Or he wouldn't have bloody taught
No.
it. But it gets hard, mate, when you're having a conversation with someone and you say to them, look, if you want the answers you're looking for, just go to Antarctica. I'm talking about a certain theory now, obviously. You know, if you think the world's flat and that there's an ice wall around, go to Antarctica. You can like literally go tomorrow. Oh no, you can't do that. I'm like, no, dude, you don't understand. You fucking can. Anybody can. You know, you can rock up without permission. They ask you to apply for a permit if you're an adventurer, but you don't have. You know,
Yeah.
there's no one there's going to check it because there's no one down there. It's a vast continent, and it's a fascinating place. It's like one of the best places I've ever visited. Now, here I am. I'm talking to one of my oldest, bestest friends, and in the next breath they go, folks, if you're getting a bit confused, why this is relevant is Antarctica's a continent. It's a landmass, and when you step ashore there, you step ashore onto rocks. So clearly, it's a landmass. It can't be both, can it? It can't be just ice if you're standing on a rock, and it gets a bit tiring going up to against that programming where someone just looks at you, Liam, completely. What you've just said goes in that ear and it shoots straight out the other one, and they look you in the eye and go, yeah, but of course you can't go to Antarctica. And
Yeah.
it's it's fucking hard enough coming from people on YouTube, you know, subscribers. Imagine it's coming from one of your best mates.
Yeah.
It's that thing where you've made that step to enlightenment. You get these narratives, and you got to put into play what you've learned, which is let people be on their journey. They're on their journey,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know.
That's it, isn't it?
But when you've got a YouTube channel and you're constantly, you know, it's not, for fuck's sake, folks, don't you want the answers to life? Don't you want to know how this complex matrix all works? You've taken one theory and you're fucking holding on to it and you won't let go. And as such, you're locked into the matrix, into the material world. And this is what you so much are looking for to heal your childhood trauma. But instead, you've latched on to a theory in the matrix because there's a load of other people that are battling childhood trauma that are latching onto it too, and you think you found a family there. You think you found a place. You think you found your answers to life. You know, this is why I'm hurting so bad. And these people, they all understand. And, you know, and you know, it wouldn't be a problem if YouTube like paid you thousands and thousands of pounds a month. You could go, yeah. But when you work like really hard at it, like I have, then you do think,
It's yeah, it's like it's kind of going back to that self-love thing for me. Because I think this is part of the journey is you want to tell everyone, you want to help everyone, you want to say, look, like this is it. And I found myself repeating the same things to the same people a lot. And I get it now because I was like them. I was operating from the ego. I thought I knew all the answers to everything, but now I just a little bit of self-love, and I'm just mindful of who I give my energy to now.
yeah,
Um, because it's just speaking through my own experience, it drains me, and I know the external isn't responsible for my internal, but I do agree that I'm on this stage now where I've just got to be mindful of who I give my energy to, because unfortunately I do get affected by, other people's energy still, especially if they're low vibrational. But I also, there's nothing wrong with that. Like you said, they're on their journey, and we've been on that side of know it all.
yeah. This is the thing. You see, if I were living probably my ideal life, I probably wouldn't have a podcast. It's not. It really just drags you back into the 3D realm. Or if you're sitting in the garden with the sun on your face, it's easy to be divine and spiritual, isn't it? If you don't go on social media, it's fine. Like but then of course you got to have a job that funds that kind of lifestyle, and I chose this one amongst a few other hats that I wear, and it's 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 so interesting because again we're talking about energy, vibration, and frequency, and it's the frequency, that higher level of enlightened consciousness that your brain has accessed. So you're on a level here, and of course the vast majority of people that are awake, even though and this is no slur on them, I'm just saying how this is how it is. Their mind is at that frequency, and it's never going to understand up here until it decides to shed the programming and ascend. Hence why they call it ascension.
Yeah.
Funny one, Liam. It's a funny one, but going back to your original point, self-love is, it's massive. Yeah, it's where because by loving yourself, you're also loving the divine, aren't you? You're loving yourself as part of the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so simple as well when you get it. It's like, wow, why didn't I do this before?
Mm. What about let's talk about the meditation then, and I'll
Yeah.
hold my hand up and say it's something. The actual practice of meditation is not something I do a lot.
Yeah.
I wonder whether I should. One of my life coaching clients, he's just massively following the podcast I did with Ben Smith, which I suggest everybody watches. My client has just gone through the roof. He's literally, I watched him ascend, and
Mm.
he'll put 40 minutes aside every morning religiously, and he's
Wow.
when you talk to him, his eyes are just beaming.
Yeah.
I'm a bit more like, I don't know, but I do catch myself when my brain is in overdrive and it needs slowing down. So what are your thoughts on meditation?
Yeah, I think it's a great tool. Um, there's many tools that can kind of quieten the mind, but it's something that I try to do every day. For the first 15 minutes of the day, um, me and the wife will switch off because we've got two kids. So I mean, it'll be pretty hard to meditate with them like climbing around us and stuff. So we switch off for the first 15 minutes, and yeah, I was listening to Ben Smith. He's got some great, fantastic advice, and I've just accepted that where I am right now, I need a bit of guidance with meditation. So I listen to guided breath work is
Mm.
what works for me. I love doing breath work. Um, and sometimes during the week I'll do longer ones. Um, I had a really profound experience, like probably about 3, 4 months ago now, um, doing a parasympathetic or somatic breath work session. And yeah, I'll probably get a bit emotional because it's still quite raw, but I kind of had like a near death experience. It felt like that's as best as I can just describe it. But I felt that oneness and I was like, wow, like it's real. And it's hard because you can't explain this to someone without them actually experiencing it. It's beyond words. Um, so that, yeah, I'm a huge advocate on meditation. Yeah.
Yes, like I say, it's not like I don't. I mean, I go running almost like religiously every morning. Or I certainly go run, or I swim, or go to the gym. That
Yeah.
that's kind of, my sort of a part of my spiritual practice, you could say.
Yeah.
However, that's not to say that the mindfulness I've been practicing for years, which is just becomes part of who you are, the ability to just shut stuff off and remember that we're the all, we're the everything.
Yeah.
And
See,
yeah, I'm just going to
see
say,
when,
that people ask me, so Chris, what is this enlightenment? How am I supposed? And I can't. I say, have you seen Highlander? Highlander, there's so much allegory packed into that film. Even from the fact the Spanish peacock being the eye, the pineal gland. He comes to visit Highlander, who doesn't understand that he's the all, the everything, you know. And in the end, there's something about the chopping the heads off is the severing of the spinal column, the electro and the magnet. There's some allegory in there too, but when he finally beats the Kurgan, chops his head off in New York City, and he's like, whoa, I am everything, I can be everything, I see everything. And that's without that rapture, it doesn't, tuning into universe, it's not like a rapture, but it's that
yeah,
ability to cut everything off and go back to source. And when you shut your eyes, your pineal kicks in. I always see a little light right in it, right there, but I couldn't tell you if that's the pineal or what the hell it is. But you just feel every single molecule in your being and your energy just connect with everything else, and that's it. There is no. And what you're doing is you're shedding your thoughts, you're shedding your identity, you're shedding you're not drinking alcohol, you're not overeating, you're not watching telly. You're literally shedding everything, and you're trying to get your biomagnetic, electromagnetic biochemistry firing at what it should be within the universe. So you need an alkaline of 7.25, obviously on average through the year. You need a clear head, so having a hangover, one of the reasons I don't like drinking these days is the next day I can't tune into universe. Just literally, you've altered your body's electromagnetism with the poison, and you can't tune into to universe. So what you're doing with meditation is you're really shedding everything, and you're becoming at one with who you are, which is the all, the everything, the divine, and that's what you're working towards. So it's not just the meditation practice, it's the physical. So it's the eating, it's the getting air, the oxygen to yourself, which you can do through breath work, or you can do it by going for a run. I like to stimulate the vagus nerve with at least a cold shower in the morning, or a hot shower, cold shower, or the plunge pool. And these things are what get you back to source. And yeah.
yeah. spiritual toolbox, isn't it? And everyone's got like a preferred method. So I think it's having a balance with all of them because I don't know about you, but when I was in the army, if one of the lads had depression or something, we get a qualified person to talk about it, usually our sergeant, and they would say, you need to exercise more. And like that only got me so far, not when I was in the military, but leaving and going, being on this healing journey. I'd go out and runs, I'd do weights, and it would help for a little bit, but it felt like something was missing. And that something was just being able to sit with my thoughts and, yeah, just observing them. And I think it's having a balance with everything as well. That's what's helped me.
Yeah, a yogi would say, one of these Indian yogis would say, you don't need any of what I just said because enlightenment comes from within. You should just be able to go. But I'm telling you, as a human animal, you try being happy when you're fucking mega hungover. It's very hard, Yes, you can
Yeah,
go into yourself and you can tell yourself, I'm still grateful. I feel like shit, but I'm still grateful.
yeah,
Nothing's going to happen to me, even though my anxiety is now like currently going through the fucking roof, and I'm not looking forward to work on Monday. And I really wish I hadn't said what I said to that girl when I was pissed up the other night. But it's cool. It's fine. It's in the past. Let's move forward. The past doesn't exist. We've only got the now. It's like I get it that you don't need all that stuff to understand the principal concept of enlightenment. But if you do the mind work, the spiritual work, and the body work, it does put you in a good place, do you think?
yeah. And for the most part, most people aren't even aware of any of this, so they are going to get affected by their external circumstances, whether it be alcohol, whether it be the news. And yeah, I'm like nowhere near on my journey of like God level consciousness or whatever you want to call it, where I'm like, nope, nothing affects me. But I have read books where people have reached that stage and it's fascinating. I'm like, wow, seems crazy.
Yeah, again, we're trying to sort of calibrate things, aren't we? And
Yeah,
it's also, I don't know how much I agree with it, Liam, and that's fine because we're all individual. Just because scripture's been laid down for thousands of years doesn't mean all of it's. I mean, I know that sounds a bit arrogant, but what I mean is, you know, if you're totally spiritual, you've reached that 12th dimension consciousness, like for example the character of Jesus would have, or Yeshua. Then if literally like the person you loved the most in the world dropped down dead, it shouldn't make any difference to your day, right? Because we're all the one. That person's going, the energy leaves that person, joins the all, the everything. Their molecular structure disintegrates. It goes back to eventually breaks down into such minute, imperceptible particles that become so infinitely small that they just become part of the quantum realm, the ether, the net, and you haven't lost anything because they can't go anywhere. It's a closed system. But how many people would want to live a life where the person you love the most dies and you don't even feel anything? That's
yeah,
almost like the definition of being a sociopath, isn't it, or a psychopath?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't, you know, I don't know. I'm not disputing it. I'm, you know, um,
Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, there's paradoxes to everything, and all we can do right now is just enjoy this experience, what we are, and of these emotions, and just enjoy it because this is all there is.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. the thing again about the old Matrix and waking up is it's all so bloody negative, isn't it? It's awful. I mean, I wake up, the first thing I do is check my phone. I know you shouldn't, and I freaking hate it, but I just think, right, what's going on Twitter, because that will give me something to talk about when I next do a live show, and I sort of save a few links and all this sort of stuff. But it's really bad practice. When people say to me, "Oh, I haven't got any social media," I'm like, good. I've only got it because I've got a bit. This is technically my business, isn't it?
Yeah.
The notion of having, I think if I had a personal Facebook, I'd probably just want like the 5 or 6 of my guys on it, a few family members. That's very far from what I've got at the moment. It's yeah.
It is hard, but like, fortunately, we have these tools to kind of not battle against that, but kind of just balance us out. Like, if we're indulging in something that seems a bit negative, or we perceive it to be negative, like I said, there's paradoxes with everything. But the news, for example, we've got this spiritual toolbox now where we can access it and just kind of balance ourselves back to more present.
Yes, exactly. I was kind of thinking, it's, the paradise comes from your own head. It comes from getting it right. You're not going to be happy if you let depression get you. You're not going to be happy if you let anxiety get to you. You're not going to be happy if you're always wanting for money, or if you've got a addiction problem. All you've got to do is square all these things away, and then you're just like in paradise. It's like, who cares what Donald Trump's doing to me? It like literally doesn't like mean anything to me. The only slight adjunct to that, if that's even the right word, is that when you go out and you look at the sky and all the planes have been over in the morning, and by 2 PM it's just cloud cover everywhere, and then you're like, it's your spiritual face, I suppose, would be what will be. But, and we're fortunate, I speak to people that live abroad, and I say, some people live in Spanish islands, and I'm like, what was it like during COVID? They were like, Chris, fucking awful. It's like 1984, mate. They were beating people up in the streets. They were checking your shopping to see that was what you bought from the supermarket, was it urgent, And I'm just like, gosh, I think you could be as spiritual as you try to be, but that would fuck me off, man. I think I'd end up in prison because I just refuse, but I don't know. Yes, interesting mix of the spiritual and the real world,
Yeah, it is.
Yes, so to finish off then, Liam, what's your progression? What are you, you clearly on the right path. Just one thing I wanted to say is we've got to get rid of the hate, haven't we?
Yeah.
We got to get rid of the hate and the division. When we were serving, we would have invaded any country we were told to, wouldn't we? Now I find that abhorrent. I literally know there's no people in any country who've got anything against me. Not even the probably the Taliban, although they probably got some strange ideas. And yet just go on Twitter for 5 minutes and see the bile and the hatred and the people, they just so love their narratives, that this lot, they love Israel and what's going on over there at the moment. This lot, they ardently hate what's happening in Palestine with a passion, and quite rightly so. But it's until you can step out of that, Liam, is it not, and want the best for everyone.
Yeah, I think something that's helped me is just trying to not put my awareness on that as much anymore. And I know obviously for you with your podcast and stuff, you've got to kind of look into that, but you have got the tools to balance that out. But for people that haven't, that are early on this journey, I'd say just be very mindful of where you put your awareness, and like the news especially, because I kind of think that's how they manifest into the collective, is by getting the collective awareness on what's going on, and people just accept it.
Absolutely.
And or put your awareness on and think, I don't agree with that. If everyone could do that, I'm not saying it'll make a difference, but it might help your internal state.
Yeah, imagine if everyone on the planet just focused on, no, we're never going to war again. That's not an answer to anything. We've got to sit down and talk it out. Imagine that would mean the military-industrial complex folds in on itself overnight. That would mean all them ego-fueled young men full of, unhealed trauma, they wouldn't have an avenue to go and take it out on other people. Measures could be put in place to recognise what individuals are going through. We could set up apparatus in society. So yes, if you do a boring job and you're stuck behind a computer screen all day, you get 3 months off every year to go and trek through the Amazon, or do the, you'll go and do the Marines endurance course or something. They'll say in the old days, this is what soldiers did, and they thought this was good. Now we do it just to give people the experience. Or yes,
but that's a good thing to think of, because in a way I mean, I don't know what you think of this, but in a way you could potentially be manifesting that in reality. So, but
sorry, that last bit again. You're talking about manifesting our future.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, this is like a whole other topic, but I think there's levels to manifesting, but through my own experience, I think it's real. And I kind of knew I was going to come on your podcast at some point, and I manifested that. But anyway, I could talk about lots of different experiences, but there is levels to it.
Well, save that thought and let's do another podcast on it after I get back from the where is it I'm going? Oh yeah, I'm rowing across the Atlantic, aren't I?
Yeah.
So God, excuse me. I'll just give that a shout out, Liam, if you don't mind. Friends, there's me at the helm, or at the oars on my beautiful rowing boat, Isabel. So as you know, starting next week, me and Louis, we're off to Gran Canaria to row across the Atlantic Ocean to shine a light for all those people that are struggling with their mental health like we used to. We're going to be raising money for traumatised veterans who are homeless and bereaved service children. I'd say the good percentage of whom is their bereaved service kids, because their parent committed suicide, which is just freaking awful. So if you can spare a $5, folks, and follow our journey in our social media, all the links will be below. That'll be absolutely brilliant. And as you can see, we've had quite a fair few people spare a $5 to make this happen. So thank you. And Liam, thank you for letting me talk a lot. It's kind of, it's it's been a good chat. I felt like I needed to say a few things. I don't feel like I'm making much sense, but that's because it's kind of hard to quantify a lot of stuff, isn't it?
Some things are just beyond words, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and yeah, and hey ho. So, friends at home, we'll put Liam's Instagram link below this video so you can hook up. I suggest you do, because, you know, energy meets energy, doesn't it? And if positive energy meets positive energy, it multiplies. And if negative energy meets negative, it does the opposite of multiply, doesn't it? It dwindles. So give Liam a follow. And I haven't mentioned your wonderful partner, because I don't know if you wanted me to or not.
Yeah. So her name's Cecilia.
Yes. So Cecilia, massive love to you, my darling, and maybe you'll come on the podcast next time with Liam. And good. Is it? How many children did you say you had?
Just the two.
Two. God, you got your hands full. One's bloody enough.
A 3 and a 1-year-old. So I don't get no sleep.
No. Oh God, I'm immediately thinking about nappies and yes, these wonderful, aren't they? Children, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, Liam, stay on the line just so I can thank you properly. Friends at home, give us a subscribe if you want to come on the enlightenment journey with us. We're just doing our best here. Be polite in the comments, folks, because you know, that's what this is all about, isn't it? Just show respect to each other.
I don't want to see any baldy comments.
Yes.
Get very angry.
Yes. Don't want to see any right said Fred comments. You were going to ask me why I've got stitches.
Oh yeah, did you fall off your BMX? That's what I was going to allude to.
No, mate. My little one wants me to wear a helmet on the BMX, and I'm just like too old school for, you know. Be different if I was down the skate park. Yeah, of course I would. But on the bump track, it's like, no, I don't think that's ever going to happen. But no, I was out running, and I stepped inside a car radial. You know, the wire inside a car tire. Like the car tires are made of a series of steel circles, basically, with rubber welded on the outside. And occasionally, when you run down the street, you see one that's come out of a car tire. Because the tires burst or whatever, and disintegrated, I should say. Anyway, I was running down the road and I put my foot inside this rim, and they're about that circular, and without meaning to, obviously, I kind of like hooked it. I must have hooked it with the back of my heel or something, and it flipped up in the air, and before I knew it, I had both feet inside it. And I couldn't move. I couldn't move my feet. It was like someone had just grabbed them like that, and I went bang and smacked my head on on the curb.
Oh no!
And then I promptly felt that horrible gush of blood just coming down my face. And but I know it was all fine, mate. I wasn't concussed or nothing, and it's not going to affect our row next Sunday. So yes.
Oh, happy days. Yeah, good luck with that, Chris, by the way.
Yes, thank you, mate. I appreciate it. Liam, stay on the line so I can thank you properly. But friends at home, thanks if you can subscribe, if you can join us on, support us on Patreon, join our locals for our uncensored stuff, or just become a YouTube member. That really helps us out. Much love. See you soon. 'Cause I've been living